So I want to make a video on the interesting way that I was actually taught on how to defend against attacks. And in all the years that I've been experimenting and exploring different styles of martial arts, I've never actually saw anybody actually teach this the same way. All right. So the first thing was that my coach was really big on was not blocking with your hands. Anytime somebody attacks you and you try to block anything with your hands, he used to say that that's like flinching. All right, like you're putting your hands out to defend yourself. Now, there's ways of actually trying to weaponize this, but the better way is just to simply try to move out of the way. All right, you want to think that instead of moving your hands, you want to think of moving your feet or move your head. All right, so either say anything tries to hit you, is going to usually try to hit you somewhere in the head or somewhere in the body. So if I move my feet, see, I move my whole body, I move my head and my body at the same time. All right, and if I duck without looking down, I do the same. So he said learning how to do that means that you can now be evasive and you're at evasiveness to your defense. So if I'm actually fighting somebody and my hands are going, right, I can duck, I can move, right, and get the fighting, being able to stay mobile while I'm fighting. But if I wanted to block, all right, he said the best way to do so is not to block with your hands, all right, but to block with your arms. If anything tries to hit you, you want to block it with your whole arm, all right? You want to use your whole arm to protect your head. And you want to use your elbows to protect your body, keeping your hands close to you so that you can always block low and high at the same time. Now, if you're blocking, you're fighting without gloves on, you're going to want to block with all your arm, your whole arm, so your hands want to go all the way to the back of your head. And some people call this like framing. You'll see other techniques that are similar to this. But here was the one kind of, I guess, kind of adjustment or addition that actually made it interesting was that he used to tell me, but you don't want to actually take the punch on your arms, all right? Because if I actually try to block and I block with my elbow like this, then I'm basically allowing my opponent to punch into me, even if I am trying to charge into him, like I'm trying to hit him with my elbow, all right? That means that now I'm running into him. All right, you want to get the punch to go past you, just like the same as if you're moving. You don't want to actually think that if somebody punches you and you're just going to block in like this, because that's like charging into him, and now it's like almost force on force. Instead, you want to think of just taking a step like you would if you were trying to avoid the attack, because all you really need your arm to do is just to make sure that the attack stays, that it's between you and the attack. All right, just like any barrier. So when the attack hits you, you just want to block and try to keep the attack on the outside of your arm. See? If the attack is going out here, then it's not hitting you in between your body or in between your shoulders because your arms are extensions of your shoulders. So the attack's going to go out here. All right? This kind of technique actually goes with something that's called like the triangle defense. But anytime anything comes at you and you could get it to go past your arm, right? It goes past your center because it's going past your shoulders. So if I still actually think in the idea of even if somebody's really close and they're throwing a lot of punches and I want to block, then as long as I'm blocking while I'm moving, then I'm able to block and prevent the attack from, ramming into me, hitting me with all that force. All right. This means that I can even be evasive and stay defensive at the same time. When I started doing this, I actually realized that it was actually really easy to be able to just simply block attacks and move because anytime somebody attacked me, I'm basically keeping my center covered as I'm moving around. So even if my opponent was to try to hit me with big hooks or try to body shots, he was still trying to hit a moving target and I was keeping my center covered the whole time, so nothing was really all that open. Now, that's not to say that it's perfect or that it's foolproof, but it was easy. It was a very easy and fast way to learn how to defend myself I could learn in a day. Like, it didn't take me very long after that to be able to actually spar with confidence because it doesn't have many actual openings that you can find that you can hit into. Maybe over time, if you have somebody you're sparring with for a while, maybe they can figure out ways to find inside, but it's very solid because all I'm doing is just covering myself down here, down low, but at the same time, I'm moving to make myself a hard target as I'm doing it. Now, if I have gloves on, I can use the gloves to kind of just block a little bit, but it's always understanding that I want to always be moving as I'm doing this because if I'm moving as I'm blocking things, then I can actually still throw punches back because I'm not allowing my opponent to continuously hit me because I'm always on the move. So if you're doing this with gloves on, you can kind of just always think, just keeping your center covered, boom, 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 right? And then if anything comes at you really sharp, you can always still just parry them off of your arms, just bringing your hands back, right? Now, if you don't have gloves on your MMA or maybe barehanded, then you want to think of using more of your whole arm. But you sometimes won't actually be able to bring your hands up completely. There's times where I've had punches come at me and I'm more or less just keeping them out of the space. So the attacks will come and I may parry one, I may parry another, but I'm not actually trying to push the attacks away or trying to bat them away. I'm just keeping this space clear. My hands should always be closer towards my center because all I'm doing, you see, is just making sure that the attacks that they're coming towards me, they're defending as I'm moving. Always trying to keep them from entering within this space, defending them with the back of my arms. So always think that the most important thing you're doing is as you're moving, you're constantly trying to cover yourself so that the attacks will come and hit to the outside of your arm. It's not more or less like you're trying to block them. It's more or less like you're just trying to almost play a game with it. As your opponent tries to attack you, you want to try to get it to go on the outside of your arms the whole time, which keeps this space clear of your opponent, of hands or any attacks he might throw. If it's down low, though, don't block with your hands because you want to keep your elbows low. You want to block with your elbow. It comes down low, block with your elbows, also covering your center, which allows you to keep your hands up so now you can attack while your hands are still up. If you do this, you can't attack, and this is open. If I do this, this is closed. I can still attack from here. All right? It's important to understand that this tight structure in your hands, having this space covered constantly with your arms and your hands is important because you don't want anybody to reach in. All right? But at the same time, you're moving, all right, keeping this space covered. See? Anytime somebody, boom, boom, I can just deflect, move, and then throw back because my hands are occupied reaching for punches and you're everywhere in the air. So if you like it, try it out, test it with other people. Understand it's always better if you already have a clear understanding of boxing and so that you have footwork and you got punching, you have to manage distance a little bit. You already know how to duck without looking down, always be looking up while you're ducking. You want to already kind of have your footwork and your head movement already kind of in there first before you start thinking of defending this way. Because the footwork, this helps the footwork. This is more or less like it's helping you defend as you're moving around. Because now, even in close space, if you move, you don't have to worry about your opponent hitting you really quickly as you're trying to move. Because you can keep your space, your center covered, even when you need to make that space in that small, tight area. If you happen to be fighting in like a very small space, you can still block and move around. So, if you like it, tell me what you think about it. Try it out. It doesn't hurt to try anything new. And come on back here to tell me what you think. Have a good day.